Hi guys, this is the second in my series with regard to GCSE Macroeconomics. And so today I'm going to look at the whole notion of the concept of aggregate demand. Now, those of you who have looked at the first video in this series, you will know that we distinguish between macroeconomics, which is the wider economy, everything that's going on in the economy, and microeconomics, which is small, so we're looking at individuals and firms. And in that first video, we considered the whole notion of aggregate demand and aggregate supply, as opposed to demand in microeconomics and supply in microeconomics. And so today, I just want to delve a little bit deeper into this whole notion of aggregate demand, AD, abbreviated to. Okay, now first things first, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are embarking upon your studies of economics, this may go on now for some years, right through, I hope, and I would encourage you, right through to university and beyond into your working lives as well. And you will oftentimes have to recall and regurgitate the aggregate demand equation. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to learn this equation, just word for word, parrot fashion. And one of the things I do that every time my class leaves the lesson at the moment, I make sure that they know and they have to say back to me, they have to repeat to me the aggregate demand equation. I know they love doing it. Haha. So the aggregate demand equation, ladies and gentlemen, is, as you can see here, C to the I to the G to the X minus M. So let's just take a look at that. C plus I plus G plus X minus M. So what do these things stand for, ladies and gentlemen? I'm sure that you can make an educated guess at most, if not all of them. So C is consumption expenditure. I is investment expenditure. G is government expenditure. X, now you might think, well, X, what word can I think of beginning with X apart from xylophone? Well, the reason that this is export expenditure, so it's not E minus M, is because E means something else in economics. So it's an X stands for exports, export expenditure, and we've already used up our I allocation for investment, and hence that is why we use M for import expenditure. So remember that, ladies and gentlemen, C to the I to the G to the X minus M. Learn it word for word, parrot fashion. So let me now, ladies and gentlemen, just break this down for you, and let's just talk about the things which are included within each of these individual constituent parts of the aggregate demand equation. So consumption, what is consumption? So consumption expenditure is expenditure by consumers, you and I, on consumer goods and services. So the things that we buy and enjoy and give us a certain amount of satisfaction, or as we call it in the business, utility. So we are all about buying goods and services because they bring us a certain amount of satisfaction, as the Rolling Stones said. So consumption expenditure. Now that can be on what we refer to as durable consumer goods and non-durable consumer goods. So durable consumer goods, what are they? Durable, obviously, as its name suggests, they last for a significant amount of time. So these would be our traditional sort of, as we used to class them, white goods. So like fridges and freezers and microwaves and those types of things, which we use, and over time their values diminish and depreciate over time, but they provide us with a steady stream of satisfaction. Non-durable, on the other hand, these are goods and services which they give us a sort of an instant hit, but once they have been consumed, then they're finished, they're done with. So if you think of a chocolate bar, I know Dino, for example, and Harry in year 12, they love a peppermint cream bar. Now, they love a peppermint cream bar and it brings them a certain amount of satisfaction, but once it's gone, it's gone. So they're non-durable consumer goods. Let's then consider investment. So, investment, who is it by? Number one is by firms. What is it investment on? It is investment by firms on capital goods. What do we mean by capital goods? We mean machinery. So investment is investment by firms on capital goods. Now that can be either replacing worn out machinery or machinery which is about to become defunct, or by new machinery. So it's new and replacement capital equipment. Government expenditure, ladies and gentlemen. What does the government spend its money on? Well, in the run-up to the election, obviously this is becoming more and more prominent in the news and in the media. And the government, of course, has to raise tax revenue and then it spends it. So I'm standing in a building, of course, where the money is spent. So on schools, hospitals, new roads, railways, new airports, all this type of thing. So that's government expenditure. Export expenditure. Who buys exports? Foreigners buy exports. So exports are goods which are leaving our country. So for example, we have the most efficient car plant in the whole of Europe on our doorstep, Nissan, Watashi Wonamai Nissan. And Nissan, most of those cars, 80% of them, are all exported out of the UK. So it's an export. So export, the good goes out and the money comes in. Imports, on the other hand, opposite way. So the good comes in and of course the money then goes to foreign destination. So those two things together actually, ladies and gentlemen, X and M, exports minus imports, that is sometimes referred to in the business as net exports. So those two things, net exports. Now what is it, ladies and gentlemen, that we're actually measuring when we add these things together, C to the I to the G to the X minus M? Well, we're measuring, you could call it a number of different things. So we're measuring AD, aggregate demand. We're also in effect measuring something which you may be familiar with, also referred to as GDP, the gross domestic product. So the total value of goods and services produced by an economy's resources. And there are a number of names for that. So when we measure this, we're actually measuring, if you take this method, it's all expenditures, expenditure. And we're measuring expenditure in the macro level on the whole. And so as a consequence of that, we call it the national expenditure. Now there are two other methods of measuring national expenditure, or GDP, or in effect AD, and they are by measuring national income. So we would do that by measuring the incomes earned by everybody in the economy, or national output, by measuring the value of all of the goods and services coming out of the factory gates. That's a sort of basic technical terminology of it. Now in effect, national expenditure and national income and national output, because they're all measuring the same thing, in theory they should all give the same value. And when you move to your A-level studies of economics, ladies and gentlemen, you will learn why that is the case. You'll also learn why it's very difficult to be the case. But in theory anyway, in your textbook theory, expenditure should equal income, should equal output. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for video 2. Bye for now and see you again later.